gathered we are to celebrate, to remember, and commit to our future. Our community extends in all directions, in time, physical distance, to those who know us, those we have known, and to myriad pioneers who doubted the common understandings of their time as we assert our doubts in our time. Our spiritual comrades include many stories, individual and cultural, which tell of the human adventure, of stars and humans, dust and knowledge emergent, knowledge glorious to behold, as we can in our time put orbiting telescopic images of the universe on our computer screens. Our stories tell us also of ignorance, of greed, of betrayal and hate, of injustices and cowardice. These also tell our story. We are of the human community. May we this morning commit ourselves in body and spirit to further fulfillment of the dreams of our forebears, to the dreams of our children, to the dreams of humankind. Together, in this place, in this hour together, we hear once again of stories that illuminate our lives, connect our hearts, teach us, and touch us to the core of our being. We are here to worship, remembering us to each other, to Unitarians and Universalists from centuries ago, to skeptics and seekers from all peoples, from all ages of humankind. We worship together.
I believe firmly that to practice love is to disrupt the status quo, which is masquerading as peace.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Farley, and I'm a member at UUFEC, and I'm really excited to do the Time for All Ages today, because when I was looking at what the service was about, and it made me, looking at the order of service, I started thinking, oh, it's about listening, and it's about being patient and receiving what you're hearing, and that sometimes is hard for me. And I think it's sometimes hard for kids and adults, especially when we're really excited and have something we want to share. It's hard to kind of take some deep breaths and say, my time is later, and just listen. So I found a perfect story for that. And the story is Interrupting Chicken. And it's a really funny story. It has a lot of speech bubbles. I tried to show you the pictures today, but it is a little tricky. This is a pretty popular book, so I'm pretty sure it's at the Niceville Library. It's a Caldecott winner, and it's a really fun book just to have and kind of share and maybe read again before school starts, because it kind of helps me remember to be a better listener. So here we go. Interrupting Chicken. It was bedtime for the little red chicken. Okay, my little chicken, said Papa. Are you ready to go to sleep? Yes, Papa, but you forgot something. What's that? Asked Papa. A bedtime story? All right, said Papa. I'll read one of your favorites. And of course, you are not going to interrupt. Are you? Oh, no, Papa, I'll be good. So there's our little red chicken, all cozy in bed. The first story is Hansel and Gretel. There we have a picture. Hansel and Gretel were very hungry. Deep in the woods, they found a house made of candy. Nibble, nibble, nibble. They began to eat the house until the old woman who lived there came out and said, "What lovely children! Why don't you come inside?" They were just about to follow her when out jumped a little red chicken, and she said, "Don't go in, she's a witch." So Hansel and Gretel didn't. The end. So here's the picture where the little red chicken comes in and interrupts the whole story. Chicken, yes, Papa. You interrupted the story. Try not to get so involved. I'm sorry, Papa, but she really was a witch. Well, you're supposed to be relaxing so you can fall asleep. Let's try another story. I'll be good, I promise, said the little red chicken. So the next story was Little Red Riding Hood. And there we have a picture. Take this basket of goodies to Grandma, said Little Red Riding Hood's mother. But don't stray from the path. The woods are full of danger. Red Riding Hood skipped along through the deep woods. By and by, she met a wolf who wished her good morning. She was about to answer him when out jumped a little red chicken. And she said, "Don't talk to strangers." So Little Red Riding Hood didn't. The end. Chicken. Yes, Papa. You did it again. You interrupted 2 stories and you're not even sleepy. I know, Papa, I'm sorry, but it was a mean old wolf. Yes, now get back into bed. Okay, Papa, let's try one more little story and I'll be good. And this story is a perfect story, right? It's called Chicken Little, and this is about a little red chicken. So this one says, Chicken Little was hit on the head by an acorn. The sky is falling, she thought. She was about to run off and warn Goosey Lucy, Ducky Lucky, and Henny Penny. And everyone on the farm, the sky was falling when out jumped a little red chicken. And she said, don't panic, it was just an acorn. So Chicken Little didn't. The end. Now, before we go on, I will say that this story is tricky because we can talk about this story in terms of being good listeners and being quiet and centered and listening to a story. But we could also talk about it that the little red chicken, if she was in those stories and she spoke up, that would be a pretty good thing too. So it's a little bit of a tricky story. We can use it for different lessons, but today we're using it for listening. Chicken. Yes, Papa. You did it again. Oh, Papa, I couldn't let that chicken get upset all over an acorn. Please read one more story. I promise I'll fall asleep. But Chicken, said Papa, we're out of stories. Oh no, Papa, I can't go to sleep without a story. Then, said Papa, yawning, why don't you tell me a story? Who's in bed now? We have Papa in bed. Me tell a story, said the little red chicken. Okay, Papa, here we go. Let me think. Bedtime for Papa by Chicken. And here's the next page with the nice pictures. Once there was a little red chicken who put her Papa to bed. She read him 100 stories. She even gave him more milk. But nothing worked. He stayed awake all. So what happened there, you guys? The Papa fell asleep, even in the little red chicken story. But then he says, Papa? Papa? He's pretty surprised. And after that, he says, good night, Papa, and climbs in bed with him. So this is a story about being a good listener, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive, nor tyrants scheme that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be the land where every man is free. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on people's lives, we must take back our land again. America! Oh, yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath. America will be.
you. Have you ever noticed this? You're at a social event, a party or something, and you meet someone new, and they express an opinion that really closely aligns with your own view of the matter, and you go, wow, they're quite smart, right? And then a little bit later in the evening, they say something that's the total opposite of what you believe to be true, and you go, oh, maybe not so smart after all, right? The thing is, the way our brains are wired, we unconsciously and very automatically give credence and value to people who think like us. And we just as automatically and unconsciously tend to dismiss, even demonize people who don't. It's easy to listen to people we agree with, right? But when it comes to politics, it's excruciating. It's almost impossible to listen to people with really different political views, isn't it? This very human phenomena just affected who we hung out with at parties. I wouldn't be standing here. But the problem is actually much more serious than that. This inability to listen, to really deeply listen to different points of view, is literally imperiling our future. It's jeopardizing our social structures, our democratic processes. It's destroying our ability to make good decisions together, decisions that affect who we elect as leaders, decisions about our economy, our security, the health of our communities, and the health of the planet itself. I want to tell you why I believe that this ability to listen, what I call radical listening, is critical to our survival. We've all noticed how the divides are getting wider and wider, those political divides around the world, conservative versus liberal, right-wing versus left-wing, populism versus liberal elitism. The rhetoric is getting more personal, more vitriolic, and more divisive than ever before. And these divides, social media has done a great job of just locking us into these ideological echo chambers, right? Sealing up the walls between us. These divides between us, these ideological silos, they're hurting us deeply. Because we don't just make ideas wrong, we make the people who hold those ideas wrong, don't we? We have all kinds of labels and stereotypes that we slap onto other human beings, and we say, if you think that, I can't listen to you. I can't even be in the same room with you. The problem is that our brains have not evolved to meet the highly complex challenges that face our world today. There's a part of our brain, it's that limbic brain, that primitive reptile brain that Julia was talking about this morning. And there's a part of it called the amygdala. And this amygdala is just this little tiny almond-shaped part of our brain, and its job is to keep us alive, to keep this physical being safe and alive. So good for you, amygdala. You know, it ramps up my cortisol levels, it increases my adrenaline production, ramps up my heart rate and my blood pressure, and it does everything to prepare me to run for my life or fight for my life. The problem is, when I express a political view that's different than yours, I'm not threatening your personal safety, am I? But your poor limbic brain doesn't know that. And it goes into fight or flight. It's going to defend or attack. And then you tell me that my idea is wrong, my conclusions are wrong, the way I see the world is wrong. And I go into fight or flight, and I prepare to defend or attack. This limbic response is particularly activated in the face of political difference, researchers have found. And when our limbic brain is activated, our frontal cortex, where we do all that good thinking, where we can be rational and thoughtful, weigh pros and cons, all of that goes out the window. And if you want to see what it looks like when your frontal cortex is no longer online, go online and check out the comment section of social media feeds. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. So it's like this. I want you to imagine this little metaphor for you. Imagine that I'm in a room. And in this room is this huge, huge sphere, this giant orange sphere. It's orange, right? It's obviously orange, right? But there's someone else in this room. Maybe it's you. And they're telling me that this sphere is blue. It's irrefutably, indisputably blue. So this room is our world. These colors that we're seeing are worldviews. The lenses that we see the world through that tell us what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's worth fighting for, what's okay to let go of. Now, I can yell at you, I can call you a moron and say, what an idiot, you can't see that this is orange, it's so obvious, it's so obvious. Or I can, patronize you and go, okay, I believe that you believe this is blue, sure. We do that at the family dinner table, don't we? Just to keep the peace. But how do I see what you're actually seeing? How am I going to be able to see what you're seeing? I'm going to have to walk around to where you're seeing and look from where you're looking, and oh my goodness, from over here it is blue. How about that? It is blue. This act of walking around and standing where someone else stands and seeing what they see is called radical listening. It requires radical listening. I want to tell you what I mean by this word, radical listening. Radical is from the root. Well, literally, the root of the word means root. It means the source, the essence, what is essential. Listening means to give heed to stretch our attention towards. So when I'm engaged in radical listening, I am listening into the essential human being, this person in front of me. I'm tending to, giving attention to what that person cares about, what they yearn for, what they fear. But this act of radical listening, this kind of behavior, our brains are not wired for it. This does not come naturally to us. And I don't believe that we'll make the effort to do this thing differently unless we deeply, deeply understand that the polarizing, the blaming, the shaming, the political posturing, the debating, the acrimony, it doesn't work. It's not working for any of us. When we really get that, I think we'll be willing to try something different. Radical listening is a conscious choice to override your brain's limbic wiring. It's an evolutionary imperative, and I believe it's one that we all have to participate in, this conscious evolving of our brains, if we're ever going to begin to heal the social and political divides that are threatening the health and well-being of all of us. Radical listening is a way out of these silos that have been, keeping us separate for so long. I suspect that there are forces in the world that would prefer we stay stuck in these silos. Maybe it's serving someone, but it's not serving us, and it's not serving our future. And when we come out from behind these walls, we start to listen with this depth and this authenticity, we start to create a space that didn't exist before. We create room for something new to emerge. Radical listening begins to soften the hard, unyielding ground that has arisen between us. And out of that softer earth, something new can emerge. New ways of thinking, new ways of being together, new ways of collaborating, new solutions to the problems that face this world so urgently. Radical listening, first of all, requires that you pay attention to how you're listening. Pay attention to what's going on in here. Notice when your amygdala gets flooded with this instinct to defend your ideas or attack someone else's. And in that moment of noticing, that moment of awareness, you get to choose something different. You get to choose a different response to your environment. This kind of choice is actually what allows us to create something new in this world, create these positive ripples of change. And it's what matters most to me in the world. So I've had some pushback on this idea. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it. But I have had some people say things like, if I just listen to someone, they'll think I'm agreeing with them. They'll think I'm condoning this idea. I can't just be in the same room with someone who makes a racist comment and not say something. Or I've had another friend say, I can't listen to my wife tell me why the oil pipelines are a bad idea and not say something. Of course you can say something. Please say something. Fight for what you believe in. Absolutely. Just don't fight the other person who holds those opposing views. Because when you fight them, all you do is further entrench them into their point of view. You compel them to resist any other way of seeing the issue. I want to share a short little story I came across in an article the other day. A woman from Florida was canvassing for transgendered rights. She knocked on this one door. Man answers, says, absolutely not, I will not support that. Where I'm from, we don't like queers. She took a breath. She said in a friendly voice, I'm gay. And because she didn't attack, he got curious. And they stayed in the conversation. And after a while, he started to tell her about his wife who had a disability and how God had given him the grace to be able to love her through this disability and care for her. And she said, I couldn't agree with you more. That is what love is all about. And that's what these laws are about too, these, including transgendered folks. It's about how we treat each other. And he paused and he said, what I said before, I was probably mistaken. She let the ground between them soften just a little bit. Another popular objection is, why not just give the person with the wrong ideas the facts? Just tell them the facts. Oh, I hate to say this because we so want to believe in the myth of our rationality. And we can be rational. But when it comes to politics, political perspectives, facts and data don't change people's perspective. They just don't. We're wired to hear what we already believe. In fact, our brains get a little hit of dopamine every time we get information that confirms what we already believe. It's kind of interesting. It's almost like we're addicted to being right. My husband and daughter sometimes like to argue at the dinner table. I find it really frustrating. And there was one night, they were just going at it, and I said to my daughter, don't you get tired of arguing all the time? And she said, Mommy, I don't like arguing. I like being right. Of course, don't we all? Don't we all? But shaming and blaming doesn't work. Telling people they're wrong doesn't work. Giving people facts doesn't work. Listening works. This kind of listening works because it gives the person we're listening to the space to hear themselves think, to reflect, maybe even reject some of their initial assertions. It gives you the space and the time to think, to reflect, and maybe reject some of your initial assertions. The other week I was out for dinner with a friend of mine, and she said, I really get what you're saying with this radical listening. I do think it's important, I really do, but I don't think I could do it. It's just too hard. So I said, Patty, what would be the worst thing that could happen if you sat across the table from someone and listened to their views that you found really distasteful? I said, I would just be so uncomfortable. Yep, you'd be uncomfortable. And what would be the worst thing that could happen then? I said, I would just be really uncomfortable. And that was the worst she could think of. And I asked her, and I want to ask you, is it worth it? Is it worth it for this momentary discomfort in exchange for the possibility of new ways of being together, new ways of thinking, new ways of collaborating, new ways of solving some of these entrenched issues that face all of us? I want to end with just a short story. This is an embarrassing story. This does not make me look good when it comes to radical listening. But you can tell that I'm really passionate about this and the possibilities of radical listening in every domain of human interaction. And I was running this idea by a dear friend and colleague of mine. And her first response was, what's the point? They're never going to change my mind. I'm never going to change their mind. What's the point? And I immediately started to tell her about why this was so important and giving her all the data and the research and like why this was such a good idea. And I was trying to convince her and persuade her, and I did everything short of shaming her and blaming her. I didn't listen. I didn't come to where she was standing and see the world through her eyes. So I'd like to leave us with this call to action, all of us. Find somebody who thinks really differently than you, who sees the world really differently than you. Listen to them. Be curious about how they see the world. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Reassure your amygdala, you're not going to die. It's okay. And let the ground soften just a little between you. You'd be surprised by what can grow from that simple, single, and sincere and vulnerable act of listening. Because the answers that we're looking for, that we so urgently need, are not going to come from this side of the room or that side of the room. We need each other. We really need each other. And we need to find in ourselves the courage, the commitment, the compassion to listen to each other in new ways, to learn from each other, so that together we can start to heal the heart of this divided world. Thank you.
We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again.